Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski Podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. So buckle up. We are in for a wild ride. I am Adam Wright along with Justin Tucker. Justin, how are you doing today?
Oh man, I'm feeling a little under the weather. It is allergy season, so I'm just trying to hang in there.
Allergy season, boys. Dude, I'm feeling very good with this new sound. If I sound great, I will take the compliment. Thank you, guys. But I have gotten this new muffler here, and I've adjusted the height, so I'm a lot closer to the mic, and I feel much more professional. This podcast is really starting to get up there, and I feel like we're gonna start stepping it up a little bit. So we're gonna get going. So
they didn't come to listen to
now,
you. They came to me.
Oh no, they come. I carry this show. What are you talking about, Justin? You just show up. You just show up, and you're the.
And I bring all the audience. I bring the audience with me, but that's neither here or there.
They're gonna take their talents to me, Justin. Now, one man's trash is another man's treasure. In other words, Sam Darnold was traded to the Carolina Panthers for a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and a sixth-round pick. I'm kidding. He's not trash, but we will find out. Considering he's getting traded into a new, better situation. Now, right off the bat, so this affects a lot of different teams. Again, it's not quite like the trade that happened last week. The couple of trades that happened between the Dolphins, the 49ers, and the Eagles that basically just screwed up, changed up the entire first half of the first round of the draft. It just really just shook everything. This is a little different, but it certainly impacts a lot of teams, a lot of players. Teddy Bridgewater is now, he's definitely not going to be the quarterback on the team. And he sure as hell doesn't want to start. The 8th pick of the draft is that was widely rumored to be used on a quarterback, but now Sam Darnold's on the team. Now, right off the bat, though, we'll start with simply, is this the right deal for the Panthers?
First and foremost, I want to say congratulations to Sam Darnold. He finally gets the opportunity he deserves, leaving that cesspool of a New York Jets organization. Finally, he gets to start somewhere new and somewhere fresh. Based upon the value they gave up for him and the potential he has, I do think it was the right choice for the Panthers to go out and get their quarterback without having to spend major draft capital to get him. I believe they can now focus that pick on somewhere else, like offensive line help or even defensive help. Maybe get a cornerback and help their defense get better and hopefully contend for the playoffs. I think this move helps them compete in a somewhat competitive NFC South. I think now that the Saints have taken a step back, I think this helps the Panthers continually take that next step forward. And they have a capable quarterback that's more talented than Teddy Bridgewater to give wide receivers like Robbie Anderson, Seth Roberts, and DJ Moore more opportunities, and doesn't have to give Christian McCaffrey the ball every single time. So, yeah, I think this is good all around for the Carolina Panthers. Yay or nay.
So I'm with you 100%. This is a great deal for the Carolina Panthers. I hear a lot about how they did give up a ton, how they just overpaid a lot for this player. Now, I just think, well, maybe the price was a little bit high. There's nothing more valuable than the next guy, the franchise guy. And this guy he has the potential to be, and he has shown flashes with the New York Jets to be a potential franchise player. Now, he has been with the Jets, so he's been held back for most of his career, and it just hasn't worked out. Never really clicked. Now Sam Darnold, nobody's really talking about this, but he gets reunited with his old wide receiver, his old top wide receiver, Robbie Anderson, who just came off a career year. He comes back with DJ Moore, who's who was sneaky good last season and has been on the upward trend ever since he came into the league, and better offensive line, better situation, better coaching, more competitive team, more talent. The pressure's on Sam Darnold, just like we kind of said a couple of weeks ago when Daniel Jones got his number one guy in Kenny Golladay, that the pressure's on Daniel Jones. It's the same way with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, everything is in place for him to succeed. The defense could be a little better. That run defense could certainly use some help, but they could address that. But all in all, I think it's safe to say if Sam Darnold can't succeed here on this team, he can't succeed anywhere, and we can officially dub him as a bust. He's kind of been able to avoid that bust tag for a while because the built-in excuse. He's been on the Jets, and he has shown mainly he's been on the Jets. He's shown some flashes, but he's also shown some points where it was a bad look for him. Seeing the ghosts back during those days.
Yeah.
So it's really we'll find out if this guy. That's what I'm most excited for. We're gonna find out with guys like Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold whether they can actually play in the NFL.
I think Sam Darnold can play. I think the only reason he hasn't been labeled as a bust yet is because of Josh Rosen. I think part of the reason they haven't considered him a bust is because look at the way Josh Rosen's career went. Even though I don't really think he's a bust, I just don't think he's had the opportunities to succeed. First off, the fact that you can say he's shown flashes with the Jets means that I think he can be a very competent quarterback because it's the Jets. They don't even know their left shoelace from their right shoelace. I mean, they're just so
you got a point there.
They're just so inept as an organization. I sometimes wonder how the heck they got 2 wins under their belt last year. They should have been 0-16. They should have the number 1 overall pick. But even the Jets get in their own ways, even when they don't.
They had no business winning those 2 games.
Yeah, but I thought they were actually going to get some more. I thought they might give up a first rounder to get Sam Darnold. The fact that they didn't give up a first and they still have the 8th overall pick this year, which is still a top 10 pick, and they can address some other needs, and they only gave up a 2nd and a 4th next year and a 6th this year, I think it's underrated value. And I think they stole Sam Darnold for dirt cheap right now. And if he's a bust, I'm like, okay, next year they can draft a quarterback in the first round. But if he does really well, they just stole a franchise quarterback for next to nothing. I think that's pretty overwhelming value. And it makes
the Jets look like complete ass clowns, especially if Zach Wilson doesn't pan out. You trade the guy who you thought was a bust, and then you try and pick up this other guy with the number 2 pick. Mm-hmm. I'm glad they're taking a direction with this, and instead of just drafting Zach Wilson and keeping Sam Darnold too, because that'd just be dumb. Here's what I will say: if you and I've developed this thought ever since this trade happened. If you're a Jets fan and you think that Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson are on the same level, sort of like the same value, and then you turn around and say this deal is a good deal for the Jets, you need to rethink your life. You know why? Because why? If you value Sam Darnold the same way of Zach Wilson, who's going to be a number 2 pick, why not just keep Sam Darnold and just trade the number 2 pick? You'd get more out of it, and you could build around Sam Darnold, and you could actually build a competent team for him. I'm getting people in trouble for something that they haven't done, but I've seen Mel Kiper talk the way he talks about Sam Darnold, saying he's better than everybody in this draft class, and then turn around and say, this is a good deal for the Jets.
Yeah.
I'm all for, if you want to take one side or the other and then saying, well, I don't think this is a good deal for the Jets because we should have kept Sam Darnold, or this is a great deal for the Jets because I like Zach Wilson more. But if you say, oh, they're kind of on the same side, but good deal for the Jets. No, you're an idiot. No.
I mean, they're Jets fans. I mean, they've made poor decisions before. I mean, that's what they are. They're Jets fans. I mean, they're used to it by now.
Just look at Brian.
I mean, stop.
Brian is out tonight, by the way.
He is out. Oh man! But overall, congratulations to Sam Darnold. Hopefully, I think congratulations to the Carolina Panthers, and better luck next time, New York Jets. But I'm always saying that about the New York Jets, so nothing new.
Yeah. And good deal for the Panthers. It could wind up not working for either side. Have we ever thought about that? Like that there's going to be no winner. Sam Darnold is still a bust, and Zach Wilson winds up being a complete stiff, and then just nobody wins.
And he just turns into the Sam Darnold himself because they don't put any talent around him or a line that can help him or a decent run game. I mean, yeah, this could be Sam Darnold 2.0 if they're not careful.
He could. I mean, you're just if you think about it this way, like I've said, and I do think Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson do have some similarities. This could be one thing where they're just extending what they've already been doing. They're just bringing in another Sam Darnold like player, not surrounding him with enough talent and just being a suckbag team. And then a few years down the road, we're going to think, Zach Wilson, he's underachieved, but he's on the Jets. So maybe if they trade him, it's one of those things like surround this guy with some talent now. Like, what the hell are they doing? Like, what the hell are they doing over there?
Mm-mm.
Like, what an awful franchise.
You always question why they haven't made the playoffs since what, 11?
I've never questioned it.
And then they make stuff like this. I'm like, no wonder they don't make it.
Right, because they, so use the pick that they have, trade back. Like I said, trade back to say around the number 5-6 section, draft Jamar Chase, give Sam Darnold a weapon, and then you probably get other picks from this trade because it's the number 2 pick. The number 3 pick fetched 3 first-round picks in return. This could get a lot more. And so you use that. You have another first-round pick that you could address on the offensive line, and then you could build around Sam Darnold. I don't know. I'm a believer in Sam Darnold. I think this is a guy who can succeed. And it really and I'm a believer in Zach Wilson too. I think he's going to be good. I just think, like I said, I don't think this is a good deal for the Chiefs or for the Jets. So,
the only saving grace for him is that they have a new head coaching staff, and he's not Adam Gase. I can say that. And they're starting to build like a very good front seven. So I think that could be a saving grace for them.
That's the main selling point for this Jets team. And it just tells you how much false hope that they're really buying into is, well, we don't completely ignoring the lack of talent on that team, saying, well, we don't have Adam Gase, so we're going to win a lot of games this year. We'll win like 5 games. First of all, I don't see why is 5 games an accomplishment. Second of all, why are we how the hell are they winning more games than they did last year? What have they done so far that's different?
They have an actually decent head coach that actually knows what they're doing.
Well, we don't know that. He could be worse.
He could be, but I don't think you could be much worse than Adam Gase from like the press conference on, to be fair. When he first got to New York, you saw something was up with him. Like, he doesn't look right.
That's true. It's interesting. Well, time will tell how this deal looks.
He could go like 6-11, not 6-10. 6-11.
You think 6 wins?
Yeah, because they were in a lot of the games, they just couldn't finish, and they were just inept to the point where it became blowouts.
And you think they'll finish games next year?
They'll finish more. They still won 2 games against playoff caliber teams. They beat Cleveland and the Rams, 2 teams that made the playoffs, so they have it in them. I don't know how they have it in them, but they do have something in them. And I can say, you know what? They could beat on some less than average playoff teams and get 4 more wins out of it. I see 6-11.
I don't, but All the power to you. Now we're gonna there's another way this impacts the Carolina Panthers in the sense that they're now out of the quarterback market, obviously, because now they have Sam Darnold. And that also means that Teddy Bridgewater is out of a starting job. Now, what do you think this means for Teddy Bridgewater, and what does this mean for the 8th overall pick? Do you see them trading Teddy Bridgewater? Do you see them keeping the 8th overall pick? Do they trade the overall pick? Do they package them both in? What do you think, Justin?
So many possibilities to do with Teddy. That's a tough one. I mean, what value can you get if you trade him? He's signed to a 3-year, $21 million contract with Carolina. So I'm like, it's not a bad contract, but at the same time, what team's willing to take that? I think the Saints would, but do you really want to trade to your competitor? No. Maybe Minnesota might take him back. Maybe if they're not inept or like enamored with the Kirk Cousins, but I don't see that happening. So I think he's going to stay there for another year, and then as the season progresses, maybe by the end of the season next year, they might trade him to another team. So he has like he's on his final year of the contract, and he can prove that he can still play in the NFL. But with the 8th overall pick, now that they have their quarterback, they can actually trade back in the draft and say go to like the 15th pick and actually pick a good player. Or for my sake, I hope they take a corner. If I'm Carolina, they should take a corner. And at pick 15 and maybe trade with the New England Patriots to go up to 8 so they can pick up their future quarterback of the franchise. And so therefore they can get more picks to actually help with the defense and the offensive side of the ball. And so I think inevitably Teddy Bridgewater will get traded eventually, just not right now. And I think they should trade back in the draft now that they have their franchise quarterback and they don't need to keep it.
Right. Now, this is something where, it'd be easy to say, why don't they keep the 8th overall pick? Because it's the 8th overall pick. You can take virtually anybody in the draft at that point. And, you could easily look at any of the wide receivers and say, like, let's load up here. But I'm not sure if that's actually that smart because they already have enough at wide receiver. It would be like last year when the Dallas Cowboys, we all thought they were going to address defense in the first round of the draft, and they went and took CeeDee Lamb. Mm-hmm. All right. They have enough at wide receiver. They have enough at running back. They're really good at running back. Yeah. They have a very good offensive line. Well, it's solid. So why not just trade back? And what they should do is trade back and maybe address the defense. Maybe look for somebody on the interior who could help them. They could look to address the offensive line. Which has been better, but they could make it much better. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that they could do and not just keep the 8th overall pick. Maybe even get while trading back, you can get an extra asset. You can get an extra first round pick, maybe in next year's draft, and you continue to build for the future. But I just don't think, I just don't see it being them keeping it. Now, what's intriguing to me, and Robert, the host of our sister podcast, the Pesky Pole podcast, we were talking to him at the dining hall today, and he was mentioning how it's a possibility they could package in Teddy Bridgewater now that he's on the trading block as well. And so what if they were to package those two together, trade back and get a haul of assets that they could use to armor Sam Darnold with all this protection, all these weapons and everything, and to fix up that defense. That could be a real possibility. I wonder if they wind up trading back, say they trade back with a quarterback needy team such as New England. Sorry for being a biased Patriots fan, but they do need a quarterback, and they won't take Teddy Bridgewater. But on any team that needs a quarterback, teams are getting desperate. This is another quarterback who's off the market in Sam Darnold, and it's getting awfully close to the draft, and teams need quarterbacks. So we could see a team moving up and trying to get a Teddy Bridgewater or acquire the 8th overall pick. So it's interesting what's going to go on. We'll see what happens with this.
I see two possibilities if they keep this pick. One is they draft a cornerback out of Alabama, Patrick Surtain II, because in 2019 against LSU, he was only targeted 5% of the time, which means the other 95%. He was the other cornerback, Trayvon Diggs, the brother of Stephon Diggs' brother, was targeted the other 95% of the time. God bless him. And the Cowboys took him in the second round, and you saw the results of that. No offense, but it is what it is. So I think if they do keep the pick, I think that's someone you should look out for if they do take him. And as controversial as it might be, the second option is they'll take a quarterback. If they don't feel like Sam Darnold if he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, they might still take a quarterback and just say, Sam, you aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing. Bye-bye, and better luck next time with another team. And they just
That'd be a dumb move for them.
I could still see it happening, and they just might insert the new quarterback in to be the franchise or be the next guy up and get rid of Teddy Bridgewater eventually.
So you're telling me on a roster where they already have Sam Darnold, that they just acquired Sam Darnold, where they already had Teddy Bridgewater from last year who they just acquired, you're saying you think they're going to pick another quarterback after that?
Yeah, because if they do draft a quarterback, they're going to be like, one of them's going to go anyway. Sam Darnold's on his fourth year, trying to look for a fifth-year opt-in or a new contract extension anyway. So this is a proven year for him. They could draft a quarterback and say, if he does well, we'll trade you. If he doesn't do well, you're the guy. And from there on out, they could trade him or not even take up Sam Darnold's fifth-year option. And just
they already took up his option, by the way.
They did?
Yeah, they did. So they're committed to him.
All right. So if he does well in his fourth year, they can trade away the number 8 overall pick and probably get some good capital for him.
Well,
Maybe
they already
take him.
Well, they have the 8th overall pick in this draft. So this is like they either use it or they don't. Well, they obviously use it, but they use it or they trade back. And as I said before, I don't see what they could do with an 8th overall pick. They could take a cornerback, but do you think he's going to be taken that early, or do you think they could? Do you think that they may think that he could fall back? I'm being a hopeful Patriots fan. I'm being a biased Patriots fan and saying
Patrick will not fall below top 10 because Caleb Farley won't fall below the top 10.
But why are they addressing defense why would they address a secondary when their secondary was actually pretty good last year?
You can never have too many cornerbacks, and with talent as such as like a Caleb Farley or a Patrick Surtain, which pretty much are like sure things.
No, see where
top 10.
See where that's where you're wrong.
You don't think
you can have too much. You can have too many cornerbacks when your run defense was as bad as it was last year, and that pass rush wasn't all that great either. Mm-hmm. I think you can, and I think they should try and trade back and actually get one of their needs, because I thought the secondary was actually very good last year.
Willing tacklers, do you think that would help with run stopping or stopping the run?
I'm sorry?
Willing tacklers. A cornerback that's willing to fill up and stop the run. So say
cornerback
outside, they can force it inside and give it to, say, Derek Brown, who was a run here. So
if you want to stop the run, get somebody who's meant to stop the run. Don't get somebody.
That's why they got Derek Brown last year. He was a rookie last year, and hopefully he'll take the steps to develop in year 2.
So then address pass rush.
All right, then you'd be looking at Jalen Phillips, Gregory Rougeau, people of that caliber, which you would have to drop back to get.
Exactly. You trade back to say number 15 with a certain team in New England.
But again, would Minnesota take one of them? Would take them before?
Take who?
Like Jalen Phillips has been mocked to Minnesota before, just like Kwity Paye was mocked to them before. So they might take an edge rusher or
it's possible. We'll have to see what happens. I think they're going to take Yeah, it's really. I mean, with what's happened this offseason, I'm really reluctant to make any sort of opinion on what's going to happen because literally, like, this has been the most wild offseason, and expect the unexpected. Like they could very well just use that number 8 pick. And they could also they're going to trade Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think he's going to stay, and it's going to be this offseason. There's no way he's going to want to back up Sam Darnold.
Mm-mm.
And they're going to trade him somewhere. There's going to be a team out there that's quarterback needy. That 8th overall pick, your guess is as good as mine, but they don't need a quarterback anymore.
Yeah.
And, that opens up the possibility to teams who are very quarterback needy to call up and try to trade up for him. And I just don't think there's any needs out there there's no needs up there at number 8 for the Panthers. They have, how was their offensive line was okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they addressed that, but that run defense was atrocious, and that pass rush needs work too.
All right, so you're more feeling of trading back.
Yes. I think that's what they should do. What they will do, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
All right. Now, with Sam Darnold coming off the trade market and another team who was in the quarterback market in the Panthers, they're now off, and there's been a lot of quarterbacks who have all been projected to go early in this draft, and a lot of teams early in this draft who are projected to go early in this draft who do need a quarterback. And now with Carolina out of the race, what do you think this means to all those teams, say a Denver or an Atlanta maybe, or a New England? What does this mean for them?
Well, for an Atlanta team, it doesn't mean much because they were already ahead of like Denver and Carolina to begin with. So again, if they still want a quarterback, they can take one, no problem. Justin Fields will be available, or Trey Lance. It really depends on how they value them and if they want like another prospect, like a Kyle Pitts, like a once in a decade type of prospect. So I don't think it affects Atlanta that much. I think Denver, if they don't believe Drew Lock is their guy, which
they don't. There's no way.
I don't think he's the guy, but again, give him another year, see what he's got. But even then, it would have to come down to either Justin Fields or Trey Lance, and it depends on who they would prefer. And then after Denver, I don't really see anybody else picking a quarterback until New England at 15. So they would get their pick of the litter, or the final pick of quarterbacks, and they'd get their franchise guy. And I think under Bill Belichick, whoever they get would be a competent or at least a Pro Bowl quarterback, no matter who they get. Because all 5 of them are first-round talent. So if you're first-round talent, you do have Pro Bowl capabilities in you. So as far as what Carolina does, it just increases the chances that New England can just stay at 15, not having to give up draft capital to get a quarterback and just stay right there. Or if they really feel like it, they could just trade with Carolina to get up to the 8th pick and secure either Justin Fields or Trey Lance, whoever they prefer at the time.
So look, since Carolina's who was projected to take a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance, they're now off the market. So this really helps a lot of teams that actually need a quarterback. Now, so what this means is that there's a higher chance that a quarterback that teams that need a quarterback they're going to wind up with their guy who they want. They have a better chance of that. Now, 1, 2, and 3 are pretty locked up at this point. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and most likely Mac Jones. After that, your guess is as good as mine. We don't know if Atlanta's going to take a quarterback. If they do, they're going to take whatever's left. I saw in a mock draft, we were talking about the Detroit yesterday. about how there's no possibility they could take a quarterback. I did see in a mock draft by CBS that was from earlier today, projecting that Justin Fields would go to Detroit. What do you think about that?
That'd be a tough one because they're still under Jared Goff's contract, so not likely, but it's still always a possibility. I guess
a possibility.
They would have to figure out a way to get rid of Jared Goff, and I'm not sure if there would be any takers either. So I guess they have to sit on it.
That's true. Denver is probably the biggest. That's a team where I look at and I say that team makes the most sense to draft a quarterback. Everywhere else, they're pretty set. I think their run defense was iffy, but it was good enough so that it's not a glaring need. They have a very good tight end with great potential. They have two very good wide receivers in Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, and they've loaded up that secondary over the off season. So you look at that, and really, where's the big hole that they need to fill at number 9? I guess it's not in any of those other spots. It's at quarterback.
I guess speed at linebacker might be a hole they need to fill.
Yeah, you guess, but what do you know they need?
Speed. As much as I love Josie Jewell because he's a tackling machine, sometimes if it goes to outside zone, he may not be able to go there. So I'm like, Micah Parsons is right there. If you guys need a linebacker, he's right there, even though I kind of want Joker to go to that spot because I think he's the number 1 linebacker. But either way, they would do the job.
So do they need Micah Parsons more than they need Drew Lock?
That's a tough one.
Tough one. No.
As in like quarterback, of course you would take the quarterback.
If Trey Lance is there, you take Trey Lance.
Again, but
Justin Fields is there, you take Justin Fields.
But do they value them the same way like you and I do? I think Trey Lance could be a franchise quarterback. And I think in Denver, if he had time to develop, then yes. But under Drew Lock, do you think that would happen? No.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I think John Elway still is infatuated with Drew Lock.
See, I think they're going to move on from him. I don't think, there's nowhere else. You have the number 9 overall pick. If they really wanted to address somewhere else, another need, they would trade back. If they trade back, I'll say, yeah, they're probably not going to hit quarterback, but they are still at number 9 as it stands. And if they stay at number 9, I think they're going to take a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, that's the biggest need for them. That's the biggest need. It's Drew Lock had he had all of these players to play with, and he looked horrible all season long.
Do you think he ever got like the chemistry down with them? Because to be fair, this was a unique season because of COVID. They didn't really have a proper training camp to actually build chemistry.
It was unique for everybody, but some quarterbacks actually succeeded. Drew Lock was not one of those quarterbacks.
Yeah. I think if some people actually do have a training camp, I think they will take more progressions and more strides and actually do better because they know what type of routes the receivers want to run and how the timing gets down. So that's the only saving grace I would say about Drew Lock. Other than that, that's it. Maybe try to get another quarterback, but I wouldn't say go for it right now.
I would go for it. Because they're not doing it. What are they going to do with Drew Lock?
Where else are you going to send him though?
He's just sitting there while all this young talent is getting older. They're spending all these years on their rookie deals. If you're going to take a quarterback, the time is now, not in a couple of years when Jerry Jeudy only has a few years left on his contract, not in a few years when, and I believe Cortland Sutton he's coming up to be a free agent in a couple of years. Is it next year or the year after? The time is now to get this team going, or else they may never, Noah Fant is going to be, they have a great young core of pass catchers. You can't just sit here and say, well, we're going to wait for Drew Lock. No, Drew Lock is a bum. He's a bona fide scrub.
Say that again. Say that again for the audience at home.
Drew Lock is a bona fide scrub. It's no disrespect to him whatsoever. To quote a famous man who works for ESPN right now, he was talking about Kwame Brown, but we're talking about Drew Lock in the same light because he deserves it. It's Drew Lock, man. Just let it go, man.
You're making him sound like he's Jamarcus Russell.
Here's my thing with these teams that need a quarterback. I think this is a prime opportunity for my New England Patriots. I don't want to just make this about New England, but they do need a quarterback, and if they don't need the Panthers do not need a quarterback anymore. The Patriots do. Panthers are at number 8, Patriots at number 15. So when you look at it now, they could trade picks and Carolina gets their guy at number 15 and they get an extra asset. Say they give up a second round next year or a first round next year. It'll probably be for what do you think it'll be? First or second round next year? Probably. Or a second round this year? Second?
Yeah.
Second. I'll take that. Oh, well, I would take that because a second would be better than a first for my team to give up. And they get their guy, they get an extra asset, and it's a positive step in the right direction. Patriots, they draft Justin Fields. They're going in the right direction. They get that final piece. I think I mentioned this a couple episodes ago when they first got all of this talent through free agency, the New England Patriots. It's like a car. They build a car and they don't put an engine in. Like, are you going to use that car? Like, what's the point of putting all these parts together and not putting in like the driving that star of the show? There's no point to that.
They have Cam Newton.
Give me a break with Cam Newton. You can take him and shove him up your ass.
They got Superman.
Yeah, Cam Newton. If they had anybody else besides Cam Newton, they would be Super Bowl contenders with that roster.
Okay.
That defense is as good as any team.
Let's calm down.
You riled me up. You worked me up.
It's easy there, Bucko. Super Bowl contenders, let's ease back down. Playoff contenders, sure. Super Bowl contenders
with a better quarterback than Cam Newton. Yes.
Move on.
If they still had Tom Brady, this team would be a Super Bowl contender.
Move on to the next topic, man.
Yeah, we will. All right. Now, there was also a tweet earlier today by this episode was recorded on Wednesday the 6th. Now, earlier today, Adam Schefter tweeted out that since this trade happened with Sam Darnold, since another quarterback has been taken off the market, teams have been reaching out to Atlanta about their number 4 overall pick. Now, we were talking about earlier how if they were to stay there, and I think if they stayed there, they'd probably take a quarterback. If they stay that pick, they'll wind up with anything that's left, which will likely be Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or I believe it's one of the two. So they could. So, do you think so teams have been calling them up, and they've been drafting, and teams have been calling them up, and they have been asking about this pick, and Atlanta has shown a willingness to negotiate on this. So, do you think Atlanta will shop the number 4 pick with some teams growing more desperate for a quarterback?
If I'm Atlanta, I have to make a decision about whether or not I believe Matt Ryan will take us to a Super Bowl. If the answer is yes, you take the number 4 pick. Either you trade back to get more assets to build around him, or you could take Kyle Pitts right now and actually make that offense just unbelievable. With Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Kyle Pitts, I mean, it's pretty hard to stop. So if they get the Kyle Pitts to help Matt Ryan, and if they do believe Matt Ryan can take them to the Super Bowl, that's what they should do, or trade back to get more assets. If they don't believe in Matt Ryan to get the job done, the only quarterback they said they're willing to take in this draft is Justin Fields. So if they are infatuated, or if they do want Justin Fields, they'll sit there and just say, I want him, and I'm not moving regardless of the phone calls or whatever. We want Justin Fields as the franchise, as the guy to take over when we move on from Matt Ryan. And so I guess that's a conversation they're just going to have to sit down and talk about with this number 4 overall pick. If I'm New England, would I be like hammering for the number 4 overall pick? No, not really, because if Carolina is willing to give up their number 8 overall pick, why would I go all the way up to give more capital if I can just sit at 8 and just wait for one or the other to give up their positions and then just pick the other of the 2 quarterbacks, and I'm not losing out on anything more than I have to. So I don't know. I think it depends on what Atlanta wants and what other teams are willing to give up to Atlanta for it. If I'm New England, I'm hopefully talking to Carolina right now to get that number 8 overall pick. If I'm Atlanta, I might keep it if I believe in Matt Ryan and try to get him like a Jamar Chase, a Kyle Pitts, or a Devontae Smith. If I don't believe in Matt Ryan, I will draft a quarterback.
So if there's there's another thing we could talk about with this, and is that the fact that they're willing to shop this pick, does this kind of give you an idea that Atlanta isn't really interested in a quarterback? Because really, like, it seems like if you really want a quarterback, you're going to get that guy, and you're not going to listen to any calls on this number 4 pick. But they're listening to him, and they have a willingness to trade it. So I wonder if they're even going to take a quarterback, if they might have their eyes on a Kyle Pitts. I'm going to backtrack a little bit from my last take a few seconds ago, saying that if they stay at 4, they'll draft a quarterback. They might be looking at Kyle Pitts. To be honest, that team is awesome at wide receiver. They could get awesome at tight end, and that team is a force.
You don't like
all in with Matt Ryan. What was that? You
don't like Hayden Hurst as your tight end? I mean, the Ravens loved him.
I don't mind Hayden Hurst, but who I love is Kyle Pitts, and
yeah.
It just comes down to priorities. So I mean that's just a little side thing, but if you're New England, you trade up to number 8, and you take that pick, and plus that's just too many assets you could give up if you're going to be going all in on a quarterback. If you think that either Justin Fields or Trey Lance is going to fall to number 8 or 9. Now, we've already discussed the Broncos are at number 9. They might wind up taking a quarterback. I think they most likely will. Now, that leaves Carolina at 8. It comes down to number 4 or number 8. I want to know what other team is asking about the number 4 pick. Who's asking about this number 4 pick? I wonder. Is it the team that I can think of off the top of my head is the Chicago Bears.
Ooh. But do they have the draft capital to give up for him? They would have to
they'd have to give up first-round picks for the next few years, but Chicago's crazy. They were going all in for Russell Wilson. They could do the same for this pick since they're growing desperate. They just had to settle on Andy Dalton. All right. So it's not going well right now for them.
The
Red Rifle. Man, I love just hyping up that guy just because he has that nickname. And he really does. He lives up to that name just because of his hair. Like no other reason, just the fact that he has pretty good hair. He does a good job on his hair. That's what I will say. If he was as good at styling his hair as he is at quarterback, he'd be a Hall of Famer.
Oh, would you stop?
Just look at that hair. It's amazing.
I'd rather not. I already know a ginger. His name is Brian.
And he needs to listen to Andy Dalton when it comes to styling his hair.
He doesn't know an Andy Dalton. He only has you.
Just all you have to do is turn on the TV, watch that Bears game, and look at that beautiful hair, and be like, dude, I need to turn this crap around.
He does fine with his hair. I think Brian does an okay job.
Yeah. Could be better. Could be better.
All right, back on topic.
Brian is out tonight, by the way. Yeah. So, I think Atlanta's definitely going to shop this. I think Atlanta's going to shop this pick, and just the fact that they've shown a willingness to tells me that, number one, they don't want a quarterback. If they were, they wouldn't be so nonchalant about this.
Mm-hmm.
If they were looking to get a quarterback. Like, if you're taking a quarterback, you're like really looking to get a quarterback. And if you're just we'll listen, and I think they have their sights on somebody else, and they think they might, which could be Kyle Pitts, and they might be saying, Kyle Pitts might go a little further back. Talk to Washington or something.
That's not happening.
Washington. They could be talking to Washington.
Yeah, could be.
It's a possibility.
But they got Taylor Heineke.
Oh, yeah. They have the GOAT, Taylor Heineke.
Oh,
that's a possibility. Yeah, we'll see. All right, now that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify and Google Play. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Over and out.
Come on, Cam Newton. Prove them wrong. Come on.